of founders, investors, and industry leaders to discuss the future of entrepreneurship as it concerns women of color entrepreneurs today. We have an amazing lineup in today's virtual summit for you, exploring everything from beauty as our business to the state of Black and Latinx women founders in 2021, a conversation on the Latinx voices of the Caribbean, this rising hub, also known as Puerto Rico, and the power of crowdfunding. But first, we'll kick off things by hearing from a group of founders who have made their mark within the beauty industry on our very first panel, Beauty is Our Business. Take a look.
Matters into their own hands by creating the solutions for this often overlooked, underserved, and underrepresented sector of customers. So today we're going to be bringing together founders of beauty startups to discuss innovation and growth within the beauty industry. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So super excited to be here. Also honored to be on this panel because we have some really amazing heavy hitters here, women who are really change makers in the beauty industry and great representations of women of color who are using their success to grow communities and really to elevate everything that we do within beauty for women of color. So I'm so honored to be here. I'm going to introduce our amazing panelists. First, we have Monique Rodriguez, the founder and CEO of Mayel Organics. Monique founded Mayel in 2014 after her healthy hair care regimen for her tailbone length hair became somewhat of a craze among her social media followers. The company started with one product and grew to a half dozen collections under Monique's direction, currently distributed in more than 87 countries and can be found in more than 100,000 stores across the U.S. in retailers like Sally Beauty, Target, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart, just to name a few. Welcome to the panel, Monique.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Next up, we have Aisha Ceballos Crump. She is the founder of Honey Baby Naturals and Botanica Beauty. After starting her career in engineering and sales and one failed attempt at reality TV, Aisha worked in the beauty and skincare industry for 16 years before creating her own products. First with Honey Baby Naturals, which made her the first Latina to have a natural hair and skincare line in mass retail. And then now with Botanica Beauty, serving the underserved Latinx beauty community and products now available in Target and Walmart stores. Welcome to the stage, Aisha.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And then next up, we have the amazing Allie Nicely, founder and CEO of Beauty and Color and entrepreneur in residence here at Digital Undivided. Allie began her career at Target, overseeing supply chain for a multi-million-dollar business and served on Target's Multicultural Beauty Advisory Council. Now she's the founder and CEO of Beauty and Color, built to help diverse beauty brands thrive, a business she built in Digital Undivided's prestigious Big Incubator. She's also Digital Undivided's entrepreneur in residence and just ran our Start cohort, which is focused on style and beauty. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to dive right into these questions. So let's talk about, these billion-dollar business ideas. Whenever people think about billion-dollar business ideas, we immediately think of technology. But beauty startups are also seriously disrupting an industry that was once solely for legacy brands. So what do you guys think has contributed to the rise of beauty startups like yours? Why, are people so interested in it now, and why has it become such a profitable kind of sector?
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll start off. So I love telling this story when I do a lot of public speaking, because it just shows the power of us. And it's amazing that small brands, medium-sized brands that were born in our kitchens and in our garages are able to sit on a shelf with Fortune 500 companies. But it's because of the digital power that is out there. It's because of our direct connection to the consumer. And I say it's because the consumer is what's driving it. They're more educated. They're informed. They're asking retailers to put their products out there. They have a direct connection to the brands and the retailers, and they're driving the demand. And I mean, it's been incredible. I've been in this industry behind the scenes for years, and what we've seen in the last 10 years is incredible, where you have so many female founders, small founders, Black, Latina, it is beautiful. And we just keep seeing growth in these categories because of the power of the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely piggyback off of that, Aisha. It was kind of some of the things that I was going to say. But also I wanted to add, the authenticity and community building. At what we do at Mielle, we always say that we focus on people first, then product. And that community aspect is so important. I mean, it's easy for the big brands to just put a product on the shelf, right? They don't have to prove themselves. We have to work 10 times harder to sit on the shelf with bigger brands, that all they need to do is, have bigger marketing dollars, and they're easier able to get on the shelf just because of their name, right? But what they don't have is that authenticity, that connection that brands like, Mielle, Honey Baby Naturals, that genuine, authentic connection of how we engage and connect with our community. You can't beat that. And when you really focus on how do you build your community up, by giving them hope, by giving them aspiration, inspiration, and over serving them, you win in this category, in this space. And that's why a lot of female founded brands are winning, because I always say, no one can connect to us like we can connect with us, right? And that conversation, that storytelling is one of the reasons why a lot of female branded companies are winning in this space.
Absolutely. And then just to add to that, as part of our curriculum in Digital Undivided's program, START, and our big incubator, we teach women of color founders how to properly get out there and conduct consumer research. We teach customer discovery, because oftentimes our products start in our kitchens because we have a problem ourselves, or our friends have a problem, and we're creating that solution. But we teach founders that in order to create a scalable and sustainable business, you have to make sure that this problem is widespread, and go out there and talk to people, women who look like you, and figure out what's keeping them up at night when it comes to their beauty regimen, to their hair, and what they truly need. So we're continuing the momentum that's happening in the marketplace, and ensuring that that up and coming founders have the tools and know what it takes to get out there and really solve these problems authentically.
Love that. I think that's such a great point. So let's talk a little bit about what has happened recently. The global pandemic really showed us that if you're a business owner who didn't have a digital component or some sort of contingency plan, it was really difficult, right? This past year. And so I want to talk a little bit about how founders in this space, beauty founders, and particularly women of color, can really prepare for any major changes in consumer behavior. Do you guys have any tips, and what are some things that you did with your businesses to make sure that you could really stay afloat and consistent over this past year?
Yeah, well, I would say that it starts with the consumer. As Aisha said, the consumer drives everything. And when you have the ability to keep your ear to the consumer, you have the ability to react and react very quickly if you're solely focused on her. And that's one of the reasons why Mael was able to, we experienced tremendous growth over COVID during the pandemic when it first hit, because we understood that, you know, our community is in a lot of uncertainty right now. Our community is hurting, right? So when I talk about overserving our community, how can we overserve, you know, the underserved, right? And so we knew that this digital space was going to skyrocket because people are not watching TV as much, right? You know, the traditional way of marketing is not how it used to be. People are on their cell phones almost 24/7, you know, like I told my team, I said, you know, if people are going to be on their cell phones, I want our brand to be the thing that pops up in their feed. Like a lot of times, like I want to be consistent in our efforts, and I want to continue to pop up in front of their faces because we need to take advantage of this opportunity. But as we're taking advantage of the opportunity, how can we uplift our community? So we went live every day, and we went live to uplift our community. A part of our mission is to excite, educate, and empower women. So we went back to that empowering. How do we empower those that are looking at us for hope and inspiration? So we did a lot of lives. We did a lot of pouring back into our community, giving away a lot of different things. We gave away cars and money. But for us, it was, we need to continue to pour into those that are looking for hope. And that was our strategy. And we did it, you know, I'm a CEO that, you know, I lead with my heart, and you know, to whom much is given, much is required. And I knew that we had to give our all. And even though I was exhausted some days, I still did it because I wanted to show up for my community. And you have to be that CEO that listens to her, or whoever your audience is, whoever that, you know, target consumer is. Once you listen to her and you understand her, you'll be able to communicate and speak to her and overserve her in ways that other people can't. And that's how we were able to win during that period. And we're still winning, you know.
That's a great point, being able to listen to the community. Would love to hear from you guys, Aisha and Ali, what you think about, you know, the question.
Surviving. So I give so much kudos to Monique and her team and the Mael team, because they were tremendous during the pandemic. I mean, you saw them, I mean, skyrocketing. On the other hand, I wasn't prepared. And it was the hardest year of my 5 years in business. Because one, people don't realize a lot of small businesses start at home. I didn't buy my first warehouse until January 2020. Wow. So put that in perspective. Like I had just invested all this money into infrastructure and space. And, you know, my husband and I went to business together. My husband actually quit his job the first time in 5 years. And we bought a warehouse, had invested all this money, and we opened our doors March 14th. The pandemic hit, and we were just scrambling to secure resources. We weren't prepared to do the digital marketing. We didn't have the firm in place. And I mean, by the grace of God, I mean, we worked day and night, my entire family, all of my children, like everybody was here. We were safe. We were covered in this environment. Like something made us buy this building right before the pandemic. You know, it's like, I really feel like it was like something that drove it. So we picked up our e-commerce, we made a pivot, but unfortunately a lot of my business was all retail, and a lot of retailers struggled. And people don't realize small businesses, especially women of color, like I've never had a line of credit. I've never had investment funds. And these are things that I'm looking into now and looking at other companies and what they've done. But, you know, when you're bootstrapped and a pandemic hits and everything shuts down, I'm asking family, friends, like whoever can you help me? And we made it through. And now, I mean, we have more orders than I can fill. But I think that's part of the mindset of a CEO and a business owner, understanding pivot strategies and what are you going to do if? And I think that if anything, the lessons that me and my family learned in 2020, you know, were really about resilience, strength, passion, and figuring out how to lean on your community. And I reached out to so many other beauty founders. They gave me packaging. They gave me resources. They're like, do you need money? One of my friends gave me a piece of equipment and we started filling our own products.
Wow.
Like, yes. I mean, she actually just called me a second ago and I'm like, she hasn't asked me for a dime. So we are a community of women that want to uplift each other and we want to help each other. And I think if you continue to have that mindset about uplifting, the more voices and players there are in beauty in our category, the stronger we are going to be together. The more shelf space we have, the stronger our voice. So I leaned on friends in the industry, and we made it through. And now, like, everything is changing my mindset. But it really taught me a lesson about just really pivoting and understanding the situation and growing from it.
I love that, and I love the fact that you spoke on the importance of community and the importance of women supporting each other, women of color supporting each other. It's so important. I think oftentimes our community, we can look to the left and the right and think that other players in the space are our competition. But in all honesty, the more of us there are, the more representation that we have, the better it is for our overall community. So I love hearing that. And that actually leads me to a question that I have for you, Allie, which is about the importance of community, right? Because you did our big pre-accelerator program, surrounded by other founders who were kind of in the same space. And I remember us having conversations about you being able to build community and what that did for your confidence and also for your business. So can you speak to that a little bit, and also how you're seeing that play out as our new entrepreneur in residence?
Yeah, the power of community, especially for us, women of color, is just priceless. Its value is priceless. Its power is unmatched. We have a unique ability to lift each other up in a way that no one else really can. There's nothing like hearing, you can do it, you got it, you're great. Like, just that affirmation from someone who looks like you, especially someone who has been in your shoes, or is a peer, or is a little bit ahead. Somebody to help get you on that path to just continuing to believe in that vision. And I think, to the question prior, what the pandemic taught me is that as a founder, oftentimes you're going to have a vision and see a solution before the world has caught up, before the world realizes that they need that solution.
Yeah.
So you have to keep going, even if no one else gets it, because one day, retailers are going to take the 15% pledge and all of a sudden they're going to need your brand on the shelf. They're going to need the technology to, help their buyers find said brands, so it's just important to keep going. Right. And the community is part of that equation. One of the things that we recently, brought into our START program this year is a guest speaker series, which meant so much to our silent beauty founders of this recent cohort. We had Alicia Williams from Nash & Pino Nail Care. We had Cora Miller from Young King Hair Care come in and speak. They dropped so many gems. One of the gems and memorable quotes that Cora left us with is, "Don't let anybody make you feel small." And that resonated so deeply with me and with every single person who was there in that space that night. And that just speaks to our role in each other's lives and businesses.
I love that. And I think it's a really good segue into kind of this conversation around the importance of confidence, and also the importance of us seeing ourselves represented in this space. So Aisha, I actually have a question for you as a Latina woman. I'd love to get your take on the importance of, representation in the beauty space. There are some Latina women founders who have carved out representation on the shelves of retailers, but definitely not enough. So what do you think is most needed to kind of advance the success and representation of Latina women founders across the board, and also in beauty?
That's a great question, and it's my life's mission right now. And I just want to back it up and tell a story. I'm 100% Puerto Rican, Boricua, but I was born in Gary, Indiana. Grew up in Chicago. My later years, and I always felt like I always struggled with my Latina identity because there's so much judgment, and people are like, oh, your name is Aisha. My husband's Black, my kids are biracial. And, I was always so proud of my culture, but I never felt like there was a platform to really talk about my culture and beauty. Yeah. And when I first got into retail, there's really not a section for Latinx beauty. And, there's a lot of segmentation. So I was placed in an ethnic category, which is traditionally African-American women, which, is my family. But I really kept raising the question of, well, what about Latinx beauty? And this was back in 2016 when I first launched my first brand. And it still wasn't Latin enough. It was still not, speaking. And so that's why I was inspired to launch Botanica. What more Latin than Botanica, which pays tribute to, the Botanicas and Latina communities and the ingredients and our culture and our story. And, it was just it was a risk. I had a brand, but I realized that Latinx women were so underrepresented. We were not talked about. We were not talked to. I mean, there were some commercials in Spanish and they slapped a different label in Spanish, these big companies, and they think that, oh, that makes this Latin. And so for me, it was I wanted to prove to everyone that we are a force to be reckoned with. Our time is now. And I mean, we're the fastest growing consumer. We are the fastest growing population. And so the fact that it was 2020 and there was still not a section for Latinx beauty and not a conversation about it, I wanted to pivot and I wanted to change the game. And, that's been, where we are. And I think a lot of it is about education, about understanding that not all Latin women look the same. Mexican women, Puerto Rican women, Dominican women, you have Central American. There's so many different Latina women that have different hair textures. If you look at me, I have wavy hair, barely have any hair, I have very fine hair, seriously. My daughters are Afro-Latinas. They have head full of hair. I mean, I have cousins, we all come from a different background, but we all, really want to celebrate our roots and our culture and our heritage. And that's the mission. And we just did a campaign. I didn't want to make this just about me and about my Puerto Rican culture and heritage. So we just launched the Caras de Botanica. And we're actually announcing we'll be announcing soon our winners. And it was really about finding women that embodied the culture, the heritage, that had different hair textures. And this is a way for me to uplift other women in the community, uplift their communities through service, and showcase the beauty in all Latina women. And I cried watching their videos and hearing their stories. And I'm just so excited to be able to be a pioneer in this industry and lead the front on Latinx beauty.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. And it's so needed. Little Latina women need to see more women like you, Aisha, so that they know it's possible. And so I love hearing that. Monique, I want to kick it to you and talk about your monumental multi-million-dollar investment that your company just received. Congratulations, first of all. I would love to hear more about if there were any challenges for you when it came to fundraising as a woman of color. That's something that we talk about a lot at Digital Undivided. We have our Project Diane report that, has a long list of stats and data around how underrepresented we are as far as being able to get investment. So I'd love to hear from you if there were any challenges, and also how you feel like this step that you've taken will open the door for other founders coming behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And, when I think about the challenges, well, number one of the challenges is, having a seat at the table, just getting that opportunity, right? Because the thing is, with people of color, we know how to make a lot out of nothing, right? Yep. We have the tenacity, we have the perseverance to just keep pushing, right? And the thing is, we create really great businesses. We create value. We have always created value. We have always had value to bring to the table, right? It's just giving us that opportunity to talk about the value that we bring, right? And that's the challenge. Honestly, being a woman of color is, I just need an opportunity. It's a shame we have to say this, but we got to prove ourselves, right? And so, I've built this brand over the course of 7 years, and the brand has grown very, very fast. And we have done things that clearly hasn't been done in the industry, in the space. But it goes back when people ask the question like, well, how are you guys able to like build this amazing company? Like, what's the secret? You know, number one, the secret is having faith in God, right? That is my foundation. But also, you know, again, I go back to that connection. Like, you know, when I look at the other brands that I'm competing up against, like they can't do what I do. And, you know, no one can beat you at being you. So that authenticity and connection that we bring along with the value, right, that can't be duplicated. And, you know, telling that story over and over again. But, you know, the great thing about, you know, this whole process is that we had an opportunity to talk to several different investors because it's a whole process and it's a very rigorous, long process. Yep. But we had the opportunity to opt out of the process and, you know, go ahead, right? And basically sign off on the deal a little earlier. But my husband and I, we came together and we said, we don't want to go ahead because us speaking to the many different investors that we're speaking to gave them an opportunity to see what we can do and what we can bring and the value that we add, you know, because we knew that this was something that was a unicorn that hadn't been seen before. We wanted to give the opportunity to private equity investors that, you know, very frankly, don't look like us to see how great and what great of a company we can build, right? Yeah. And so we went through that process of talking to different people just to share this story. So to your question about how does this, you know, help other little women of, you know, young Black girls, women of color, how does it help them going forward? Because I am breaking a glass ceiling so they can come behind me and shatter the next glass ceiling, right? So now when these private equities, they meet with the next generation or the next set of entrepreneurs that are, you know, meeting with them and telling them about their business, they're going to be reminded of this brand Mael and how they did it. And so that's going to, you know, make the process a little bit more easier because they're not going to have any doubts, right? Because they've seen it done, it's been proven, right? And, you know, I also thank, you know, Richard Lou Dennis, who paved the way for brands like me to do it as well. So if we continue to just pave the way and reaching back and lifting others up and bringing them up with us, then we'll continue to get ahead. And that's how we'll continue to evolve because we're reaching back and helping others. You know, he's also an investor in my company, but if he didn't reach back out and help me and bring me up, I wouldn't, you know, necessarily be here today with this deal that we have today. And, you know, he was, what he did has never been done. And what we were able to accomplish has never been done by a Black woman in the hair care beauty space. And so it's historic. But again, I don't want to be just the first. I want many more women of color to do the same thing and do it even better than me, because that's how we change the narrative.
Absolutely. I love that. It's about opening those doors, bringing people up and, you know, making sure that as you climb the ladder, you're pulling people with you.
Correct.
I love, love, love that. Okay. So we're going to close it out. I'd love to have, if each of you could just give me some parting words of advice. You know, let's say, for example, I'm a founder, I'm a beauty founder, I have a new startup, and I'm trying to understand, you know, what I should be thinking about right now in this space, in this environment. Just give us some parting advice for the founders who are watching.
I'll start, but I also just really quickly, I just want to say what Monique said is so tremendous. And like, as someone who, you know, follows their brand, like the first thing that came to me is, wow, look what Mael just did. She just elevated the game. And, you know, I remember when I heard it happen, I said, Monique just elevated the game for all of us. Like that's how I felt. And I think a lot of us felt that way. And I hope that we are elevating the game for the next entrepreneur out there that is thinking about a brand. You know, I like to call myself the brand whisperer because I actually enjoy creating the brands more than anything. And I talk to a lot of young ladies and, you know, people DM me and I said, sure, give me a call. My husband was like, girl, you are never going to be off that phone. I take calls from random people all the time. It's kind of crazy, but my passion is helping other people believe in their dreams. And I always, you know, it's funny that I just started telling people about reality TV, you know, my experience there. I'm a poor girl from Gary, Indiana. My grandparents came to this country. They did not speak English. I was the first person in my family to go to college. And I always believed in my strength, in my power, and I had passion. You know, I went to Purdue University for chemical engineering and no one looked like me. You know, everything that I've done in my life, like I've been on TV, I've done things, and it's because I believed in myself and I bet on myself. I quit my job to do this. You know, when my family thought, okay, you're kind of crazy, I believed in myself. Seriously. And my husband, he's always been there for me. Like, he's my biggest cheerleader. And, you know, it takes a family, it takes a community. But, you know, if you have an idea, do your homework, do your research to look into it. But if you have the passion, that's what you want to do. What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that could happen? The biggest risk is never taking a risk. So believe in yourself, bet on yourself, take the risk, and find entrepreneurs like Monique and myself and, you know, and Allie, who want to help mentor, who want to help you grow, because we're not just doing this for ourselves. And everything Monique said is real, because I've been around her. I've seen her. Like, she's very family oriented like I am. And, you know, we're really about uplifting the next generation. Like, my daughters, they're launching a business like next year, you know, and then I hope that, you know, seriously, like, I want every generation to become uplifted. So, you know, that's the key, is like, believe in your dreams, believe in yourself. And, you know, the worst that could happen is, okay, it might not happen the first time, but what about the second and third time? Don't give up on your dreams.
Yep.
Such good advice, Aisha. Thank you. Any parting words, Allie, Monique?
Yep. I'll go. I would just, you know, words of advice that I can leave, you know, any aspiring entrepreneur is always remain a student. You know, have the spirit of humility, because you don't know everything. And I've seen a lot of business owners that have an arrogance, and that arrogance is only going to take them only so far, right? You know, your attitude reflects your altitude. And if you have the ability to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you in areas that you're not, do so. Find mentors. Ask as many questions as you can. There is no such thing as a dumb question, but always learn from those who have done it before, right? And when I say to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, it's not to say that you're not smart, but you have a gift, they have a gift, and you have to understand what your gift is and operate in your gifts and talents, and know your strengths and also know your weaknesses. And in the areas that you are weak, because everybody has weakness, right? The famous billionaires that we admire, Jeff Bezos has a weakness, right? The reason why he's a billionaire is because he was able to complement his weaknesses with people that are stronger than him in those areas. Yeah. So, you know, that's the reason why I'm also here today, is because, you know, I will admit 100%, I don't know everything, but guess what? I will learn. Yeah. Learn and, you know, do it better. So always remain a student.
Awesome. Allie?
I would say that my advice is to just become really relentless about understanding your customer and the people that you serve or aim to serve, understand their problem, and understand how you can solve that uniquely. You know, the beauty and hair care spaces are wildly competitive. And in order to achieve success, you have to know who your customer is, know them like the back of your hand, as they say, and understand what sets you apart, whether that's an ingredient, packaging, however you're going to market. Just really make sure you're carving out that niche and owning that, and just have the courage to keep going. Build a team around you. You know, even if you're just getting started, find an intern, get a friend, find somebody on Upwork to help you. You know, don't try and do it all alone. You need to lean in to your community and build an infrastructure that will allow you to keep going. It's not enough to just say keep going. You have to lay that foundation. And programs like START, programs like BIG, we help provide founders with the tools to lay the foundation and the community to help them build that confidence.
Absolutely. Amazing. Well, ladies, it has been such a pleasure. You guys dropped so many gems. And I am just, first of all, wishing you all the best with your businesses, with your future endeavors. I'm incredibly honored that I got to share time and space with you all. And we really appreciate your time, because the founders who are tuning in, you know, we're all looking to women like you who've been able to pave this path and really change the course of what success in beauty looks like as women of color. So thank you so much for your time and your energy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to this amazing panel titled The Paradise, the Latinx Voices of the Rising Caribbean Hub. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited. And if you're wondering, what does that mean? Well, Puerto Rico is poised to become a global model for innovation in entrepreneurship. This U.S. territory's vibrant startup ecosystem and growing community of entrepreneurs gives light and opportunity to a sector of founders that has long been overlooked, Latinx women. As Digital Undivided expands its reach to Puerto Rico, today we sit down with local founders to discuss the opportunities presented in Puerto Rico's growing entrepreneurial ecosystem. And of course, the resources organizations like Digital Undivided will activate to aid the advancements of Latinx women entrepreneurs. I'm Bettina Maestre, the programs manager here at Digital Undivided. And today I am joined by three amazing Latinx women who are changing innovation and changing the world one step at a time. So please say hello to Tommy Hernandez. Tommy is a fashion designer with over 20 years of experience. And she decided to use her experience not only as a maker, but to teach others on how to create clothes and swimwear, but also to become entrepreneurs and launch their fashion business. Her online fashion academy, Serena Patterns, has over 1,700 students around the world. Hi, Tommy.
Hi, Bettina. Hi, everyone. So pleased to be here.
Great to have you. Next up is Suhaili Sepulveda, co-founder of Guilty. Suhaili is an attorney turned entrepreneur. She had a successful career as a corporate attorney, but decided to launch Guilty 2017 right after Hurricane Maria. Since then, she has been accepted to the most important startups in Puerto Rico and Latin America, but most importantly, she's revolutionizing the way Puerto Rican women dress, and even more so, perceive their wardrobe and their clothing, which, by the way, I'm wearing that shirt today. So thank you, Sohaili, for this.
Hi, Bettina. Hi, everyone. I'm super pleased and happy and honored, actually, to be here. And I'm super grateful that I get to share my experience along with these women that I really admire.
Awesome. And last but most definitely not least, is Marie Santini, founder and CEO of Pinta. Marie Santini is a Puerto Rican marketing expert and nail enthusiast. For over 8 years, she worked as a marketing director in the retail industry. But after noticing the lack of quality products for non-professional nail junkies like myself, she decided to make her hobby her full-time job. And so now she is the proud founder of Pinta, a nail and personal care brand. So thank you for making my nails possible as well.
Thank you, Bettina. Thank you guys for having me here. I am so excited. It's really an honor to be here with you guys.
No, this is such an amazing panel. I'm so excited for this conversation. I know all the three of you have different experiences, different backgrounds, and the reasons why you decided to become entrepreneurs is very different. So this is exactly why we need to have this conversation today. So let's get this off. So for many, Puerto Rico may not be the first place that comes to mind when thinking of innovation and entrepreneurship. You probably think of Puerto Rico to go on a vacation, let's go on a beach, but we are so much more than that. And this territory's entrepreneurial landscape is actively maturing. How has the startup ecosystem for each of you in Puerto Rico evolved over the years? Yeah, tell me.
Well, in my case, I started my first business, a fashion line, 22 years ago. I started fashion in New York and then came back, and I had no idea how to start a business. I just knew I wanted to sell my designs to people. So at that moment, there was no Google. Internet was really slow, and there were not, that I know of, any fashion or any incubators or accelerator programs, something that nowadays in Puerto Rico we have a lot. Actually, we have programs where people from all over the world come to get their businesses started. And definitely the collaboration vibe has changed. Initially, people never wanted to share their contacts, never wanted to help other entrepreneurs because they thought they were going to steal their idea. And nowadays, the startup ecosystem has changed drastically. And people ask me for contacts. I ask other people for contacts, and we just help each other, and everyone's happy.
Yeah. So, Hailey.
I mean, for me, it has changed dramatically. I think a few years ago, the idea of having your own business or your own company, for that matter, was just crazy. It's not something that you get to learn at school or at college, for that matter. But for me, I think that as a generation, we have become increasingly aware of the importance of doing things on our own, to take things on our hand, and we have become increasingly aware of the importance of, that we need to make changes on our own instead of waiting things to happen or wait for the government to make it happen, for example. And I don't know, I think that right now you see a lot of people with this eagerness, with this drive, with this ambition of getting things done. And I think that our generation has been born and raised during a crisis. We have faced firsthand the economic turmoil of this island, and we have a lot of drive of making things work. And to bring innovation for Puerto Rico has become increasingly important for the last few years. And now you see a lot of people wanting to make things happen, to bring innovation, to bring technologies, to bring products to the island, and to insert the island to the world. And I think that has made a great impact in the island and has resulted in Puerto Rico becoming a great hub for innovation, for ideas that has resulted in the evolution of the startup ecosystem in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, for me, when I started in 2019 with my business, I was so overwhelmed because I thought I was alone in this entrepreneurial journey. But the word is being getting around that in Puerto Rico, there is an ecosystem that is growing and that it's amazing. I had the fortune to be introduced to this ecosystem by another started up entrepreneur, and it has changed the way I see doing business, especially in the island, because there are many opportunities and not many people know about them. But I think we're finally seeing this evolution and these people wanting more and wanting to, to innovate in every area, not only in the beauty and the wellness industry, but I think in many industries we're seeing how people want to do some different things and be very innovative. So I do think we are maturing in a very rapidly paced, for sure.
Yeah, and there's something obviously that comes with the territory because we are an island in the Caribbean. We're surrounded by water. And with that, there can be a lot of challenges. There might be some hurdles that as Latinx women and being in Puerto Rico we face. So how have each and every one of you practiced that global mindset, even though that we are in Puerto Rico? And what tools have you used? Is it networking? What resources? Like, what have you put in place to defer and make sure that those barriers or those challenges are overcome? Yeah, Suhaili.
Yeah, go Suhaili.
I wasn't sure about that. I mean, from the very first time I get to understand this startup ecosystem, I understood at the same time that the 100 per 35 mindset is not something that we should be looking at. And we need to think global. We need to think about collaborations. We need to be thinking about how we can insert ourselves in the global landscape. And for me, it has been mind-blowing and life-changing to get to know another entrepreneurs. And I say I get to know them, but for me, getting to know them is probably, listening to a podcast and trying to understand the journey about another entrepreneur, because sometimes we think that we are on our own, with our own challenges and so forth, but thinking that at the same time we are just one, we are going through the same struggles, we are going through the same things, and sometimes having the time to just listen to another people's stories has impacted me a lot and make me think that I can be that person that can do a lot of great things as well. Not because I'm in Puerto Rico, it means that I have to just limit myself to do something in Puerto Rico. The limits are right here.
Yeah, for sure. For me, just as Suhaili said, listening to other entrepreneurs' stories of how they started or how they had these ideas that are amazing and that can compete worldwide, it's really life-changing for me, and it has changed my mindset for sure. But also networking has helped me a lot, and taking advantage of that networking and using some of those entrepreneurs that I met as mentors and unofficially mentors, because you start asking them questions on how to solve things or how did they think other things, opens your mind, and sometimes in the most simple ways that they have solved some issues, it can change how you see things. And definitely, just as Suhaili said too, looking what is outside Puerto Rico, not focusing only in what's here, in what's out there in the world, helps a lot too, because it doesn't limit you and when you're creating stuff, for sure.
In my
Very well
case, I'm sorry. In my case, having that global mindset was the most important thing. I think Suhaili's business and Inmaris is also the first one in Puerto Rico. I founded the first sewing pattern company in Puerto Rico. So we did not have a local president that we could go and see their offices and see how the layout and see how they do things. So definitely having virtual mentors, keep learning online courses. I take online courses about online courses, which sounds weird, but it definitely helps. And podcasts we have to continue educating ourselves. And nowadays, technology can help us instead of going to trade shows like I used to do, investing lots of money and having to travel. Technology makes us everyone connected, like we are connected right now in different cities and different countries.
Yeah, great point. And on the other hand, right, you've all talked about how robust our ecosystem here is and the resources that we have in place. But as women in Puerto Rico, what do you think is most needed to drive entrepreneurship forward?
I think, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that supporting other small business, for me as an entrepreneur, if I can give back all the help I have been given, that's really important. And I think we can do the change as entrepreneurs is to give back and support, be partners with other entrepreneurs, creating creative partnerships. That's really essential to drive more women into the entrepreneur and the ecosystem, for sure.
Tommy, you were going to say something.
Just like Mari said, women helping women. We have to keep helping each other. Especially, we had the advantage to get an education. There's lots of women in Puerto Rico and around the world that haven't had that opportunity. And for me, single moms, it's a big cause. It's something that I'm eager to help with. And I dream of having a fashion incubator so we can prepare women that do not have, that haven't even finished high school in the art of sewing and pattern making, so they can start their own fashion businesses, even if they haven't had the privilege that we all have had.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty emphatic about this because I strongly believe that we really need to bridge the gap between men and women at all levels. And we really need to bring women to the table, to bring women to where decisions are made. Because there's no way that we can lift each other if we are not where decisions are being made. So let's say you're pitching your business, your women-oriented business, for example, to investors. And they are all men, and they don't get it. They won't get it because they're not like you. They're not gonna use your product. They can't relate to the product, to your business, to your whatever. And then you don't get the investment, not because you don't deserve it, but because it's, you get lost in translation. And that means a lot. That means that we need more women investors. We need more women entrepreneurs. We need more women business mentors. We need more women in leading positions in government, bringing products, leading companies, leading industries, because that's the only way we can really, really, really lift each other one day at a time, one partnership at a time, one idea at a time. So that's really, really important for me.
Amen.
Yeah. All the claps. No, and I also have to say, I've been in this ecosystem. I work with Digital Undivided, but I'm based in Puerto Rico, and I've been here in this ecosystem for quite a few years. And one thing that I have seen that's very constant, which I think goes to Haley's point, is that women really support women here. And I have firsthand experience in women being for example, that big challenge that you said to Haley about maybe, going and do a pitch to investors and they're all men. That process, you will find a woman that relates to you. And we're very big on sharing our stories. And that is one thing here that, is a good thing to have. We're a small island. Basically, everyone kind of knows themselves. If you don't know them, you know their cousin, you know their uncle, you know someone that knows them. And we are big on being like, hey, I'll do that intro for you. Like, even if you meet that one person, we are always the first ones to be like, I'll do the intro for you. I'll connect you with the people you need. Let's bounce off ideas. Let's have the conversation. So share struggles. We're not fearful in sharing our struggles. So I think that's one of the key things that for women in Puerto Rico, women entrepreneurs in Puerto Rico, is something that really sets us apart and something that I think is a really amazing thing to have. So being in Puerto Rico, it does have its own sets of challenges that come with nature, right? Because of where we're positioned. Hurricanes are a thing, earthquakes are a thing, even basic things as sometimes losing power randomly are a thing. So Haley, you launched your business in 2017, right after Hurricane Maria. And I don't think we have to say too much about Hurricane Maria. We all know it was tough. We were without power, without basic supplies, without electricity for a long time. So from your experience, how has crisis motivated you as an entrepreneur in Puerto Rico?
Dramatically. I would say that Hurricane Maria was a defining moment for us. I mean, individually and as a country, as an island. I mean, we get to learn the hard way that we're stronger than we thought we are. And most importantly, that we are not made for giving up. You know, above all, we get to learn the hard way that we love this island more than we think, and with all our heart and soul. And I think for some reason that strength, that love, turned into resilience, and that resilience for some reason made people change their way of thinking. You know, now you see a lot of young people taking things and matters on their hand, rolling their sleeves and saying, you know what, if there are no jobs, I'm creating those jobs. If there are no opportunities, we are creating those opportunities. So now you see that mindset, that enthusiasm, if you will, to take things on our matter instead of waiting for things to happen. And this generation has been very, very emphatic in the importance of start building our own future and you know, creating opportunities even in the darkest times. So for me, that has been crucial, and from my personal experience, Hurricane Maria gave me the push to do something for Puerto Rico, just because. And I think something amazing happened as well. You saw after Hurricane Maria, a lot of Boricuas coming back to the island because they wanted to do something. They wanted to be part of the solution. They didn't want to be away anymore. They wanted to be here and making things happen here. And that translated into, for some reason, into Puerto Ricans wanting to do the same. And I think that has been very powerful and very life-changing for us. Probably, you know, Hurricane Maria, for some reason, pushed us to rise again from the ashes. And there's a say that when you are, you know, at rock bottom, there's no way to go but up. And that's exactly what we did after here.
Yeah. I think it definitely prepared you for what it actually means to be an entrepreneur. And I think you're ready for any change, anything that comes with that. So definitely. And Tommy, you know, you as the founder of Sirena Patterns, you have been published in various magazines in Europe. You have clients all over the world. So what opportunities have you identified for tech-enabled startups in Puerto Rico?
Well, as I told you years ago, I think there was nothing for anyone that wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was much harder. I'm not saying that it is easy right now, but nowadays we have organizations like Colmena 66, which connects entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs with the right programs that can help them. That could be a government program, a grant, an accelerator, an incubator, and there are more and more opportunities. So I really want to tell everyone that wants to come to Puerto Rico and to live in this paradise that yes, there are opportunities, and as Suhaili said, we love being here, and we are glad to receive everyone that wants to come and start their own business here. Something else, I think that mindset that we entrepreneurs have, it's a problem-solving mindset, and I think that should be taught since elementary school. There are lots of subjects that they teach you in school that you don't use them for anything once you start your own job or once you graduate and start working. And definitely, I'm very I really believe that if we teach elementary kids to start building business and in a very simple way. When I was 9 years old, I had a candy store in my porch. So that entrepreneur spirit is something that I've always had. But other people need to develop that, and definitely we are problem solvers, and that can help you not only for starting a business, but just in almost anything in your life.
Yeah, no, definitely. First off, love that you had a candy store at 9 years old. I always wanted to do that, but I lived somewhere that was so remote that, like, like the lemonade stands, I always wanted to, like, right in front of my house, but, like, it wasn't possible. There were no cars going through. So that was, like, my dream at that time. Yeah, so first off, one of the great things I think that you said is that also we are changing that mindset. We are seeing as this ecosystem grows, we are changing that mindset for people to be like, let's do this. Let's create the jobs. Of course, it always is challenging and it's always fearful, but we do it. And the great thing is that we're not afraid to do it. So that is a great point on your end. And I mean, Marie, you are in a space of beauty and wellness in Puerto Rico. So how do you think that we can create more pathways for Latinx-owned startups in this space?
Well, first of all, I think we can start taking beauty and wellness and even fashion, for that matter, more seriously as a business, as a growing industry that has a lot of potential and that is growing rapidly. And once everyone takes that seriously, I think more pathways are going to open just by, automatically. Because that's what I think we're lacking right now, is that just like Suhaili said, because women are not like taking over being more entrepreneurs or are not taking the decisions. I don't think beauty and fashion and wellness are being taken seriously right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that's going to come automatically, more pathways, and once it's taken seriously, that's just as simple as that for me.
Yeah, no, of course. And also it's more of, for example, I already said my nails are not sponsored, but I did them with Pinta, all the products, big fan. So I think, at the same time, what people don't realize is that, yes, you're selling beauty products. You're selling me the experience. For me now, especially in these times, I love doing my nails, just sitting down and taking the time. It's like my time to enjoy myself. So what people don't understand, or what they think they don't understand, it's beyond your products. And this goes to all of you. Tommy, you're selling the experience, the knowledge to actually get them to do all this bathing suits and learn how to do swimwear and learn how to sew. I myself, I have to get on it. I'm still trying to figure out how to sew a button. So I am one of those people that needs to get that, and with Suhaili, Suhaili knows I've been using Guilty for a while now. And even in quarantine times, I'm still working from home. For me, it's like, I love waking up and having that shirt already, not being like, what I have to wear today, exploring with my options, exploring with my style, and you make that possible. So I think all the three of you are key and instrumental into not only what you do, but what you do for people. And I think that's also key also in this ecosystem, because there's a lot of things that are coming from this island, a lot of founders that are starting as well. So I think that is, beyond what we do, especially in the space that all of you are in. So with this said, I would love for Tommy, tell me something that you would like for people to take away from this conversation today. From, what would you like to say to all the people that are listening to us today?
Well, do not underestimate women. We can do as many things as men, and not because you come from a small island and you don't have a perfect English accent, that doesn't mean you cannot be a good entrepreneur and you cannot be successful.
Yeah, that is, 100%. Main Mari, same question for you.
I think I want women to embrace who they are, embrace their ideas, and not be afraid to do what they love and make it their full-time job. I made my hobby my full-time job. I know Tommy made what she loves to do her job, and I know Suhaili that she loves fashion. She makes it her job. So don't be afraid to do what you do 24/7, because it's so gratifying to do that. And don't be afraid. And if you get overwhelmed, just listen to other entrepreneur stories, listen to good podcasts, and just DM the entrepreneurs you admire, because they probably want to help you and give back what they receive.
Yeah. And before we go to Suhaili for that same question, Nin Marie, where do you go as a founder yourself? Where do you find these people to reach out to?
Yeah, well, I do listen to a lot of podcasts. One of those that I would recommend, where I listened to Tommy and Suhaili for the first time, it was Mentores en Línea. They have so many great stories of Latin entrepreneurs. It's one of my favorite podcasts, but there are also many books that have stories. I forgot one that I read a few months ago that it's just stories of entrepreneurs that went through everything that I've been going through. And so listening to those stories is really eye-opening, and it calms you down, and it's, focus you. Oh, okay, well, it's not happening to me only, it's happening to everyone else. So maybe I can do what they did, or ask around. So yeah, don't be scared to reach out those people that you admire.
Yeah, I love that podcast. And usually something that also works for me is that after I hear that podcast, I go to that person's profile on LinkedIn and I'm messaging them like right there and then. I'm like, LinkedIn here works wonders. So so Haley, same question as I asked Tommy and Nimari. What do you want people to take away from this conversation that we have had today?
Each and every person has the ability to become an entrepreneur. If you're a hardworking person, if you're a problem solver, if you like things be done your own way and you are willing and able to work for them, you can be an entrepreneur. I am an attorney, and this was, something unexpected that happened to me. I never in my wildest dream I thought I would become an entrepreneur, that I'd be running my own business. And even though I loved what I studied for a career, I had the call and felt the need to do something on my own. And for me, and as I said before, 2017 was a turning point in that. And sometimes we tend to limit ourselves because of what we studied, because of our career, because of our skill set or whatever. But you know what? You get to learn on the ride. I mean, yeah. You get to it's like you're running and you're walking and starting to run at the same time, and it's a very hardworking and intense career. if you will, but it's the most gratifying thing you can do for yourself. So don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself because of your career, because of whatever someone tells you that you should or should not be. You can do whatever you want to do each and every day as long as you work for it.
Love that. Love that. And funny enough, I relate to that so much because, you know, I'm also an attorney by training. And yes, I went to school. Yes, I love it. And then, you know, my life shifted in many ways. And that happens a lot here. And, you know, sometimes our own fears are, am I capable because I didn't go to school for this? Or, you know, you know, maybe in Marie, you're like, I like to do my nails, but I don't know how to start a business. Yeah, probably so, but you figured it out, and we all did, and we all do. So that's, I think, one of the few secrets I say as an entrepreneur is just, you know, you'll figure it out. So, yeah, so thank you all of you for being here. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. Last but not least, where can we find you? In which channels are you? How can people get to reach out to each and every one of you?
I'm on Instagram.
Tell me, yeah.
I'm on Instagram as Sirena Patterns, and on Facebook as Sirena Patterns. On Facebook, we teach every Monday at 11 a.m. Puerto Rico time. We teach free sewing lessons. They're in Spanish though, but on Instagram, everything's in English, and of course on YouTube, Sirena Patterns.
Love that. You'll be seeing me soon. Marie, where can we find you?
You can find all of Pinta products at pintabeauty.com, and be sure to follow us on social media at Pinta Beauty.
Yes.
And yes, you can find us at lookguilty.com, Look Guilty at Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, to all our amazing panelists, and thank you for joining us today and learning more about this growing entrepreneurial Caribbean hub. So thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi there, my name is Allie Nicely, entrepreneur in residence at Digital Undivided. At Digital Undivided, we leverage data and advocacy to catalyze economic growth for Black and Latinx women entrepreneurs in innovation and technology. Our goal is to create a world in which all women of color own their work. We're a connector and a catalyst supporting Black and Latinx women through best-in-class programming, mentorship, training, resources, and investment. And through our Genius Lab, we bring together the shared experiences of innovative founders like yourself to connect, inspire, and catalyze your own genius. We understand that the journey of entrepreneurship is a unique experience, especially for women of color, which is why we've cultivated a safe space in which Black and Latinx women entrepreneurs can build a solid network to walk this path together, while also receiving the tools and resources necessary to thrive. As a member of the Genius Lab, you'll receive access to exclusive content, events, and conversations you can't find anywhere else. You'll be able to meet and connect with fellow founders who share your interests and our Digital Undivided program alum. The best part about the Genius Lab is that you'll have the opportunity to curate an experience unique to your needs and interests. Under your profile, you'll be able to join private groups based on industry, location, and even Digital Undivided program, engage in monthly Digital Undivided community events of your choice, and connect with founders through community forum topics and direct message. Here at Digital Undivided, we see everyone as their best and highest selves. Together, we will collectively ensure that the Genius Lab is a safe space for all community members. So now that you know a bit more about our community, sign up for your free trial today and see all that we have to offer you as a Digital Undivided Genius Lab member. See you soon. Bye.
And welcome back to Digital Undivided's Undivided We Rise Summit. I'm Lauren Milan, and I'm the CEO of Digital Undivided. I'm joined today by our Director of Research, Evaluation, and Data, Danielle Jackson. Welcome, Danielle. Our work at Digital Undivided is so important to us. And I invited you to do a deep dive with me today on the current state of Black and Latinx women founders based on our recently released 2021 update to the Project Diane report. We know we have lived through quite the year, but for those of you who don't know, Project Diane was the first data report ever to look at the state of Black and Latinx women founders and the startups that they lead in the United States. We know that tracking this is more important now than it has ever been before. 2020 was an anomalous year, characterized by social, economic, and political crises, including the COVID-19 pandemic and a global movement towards racial justice. This led to both unprecedented challenges and new opportunities for Black and Latinx women entrepreneurs. Studies show that COVID-19 alone has sped up digital transformation by 5.3 years. In reaction to this, we have shifted and will now provide more frequent updates and reports of our findings, including quarterly white papers, insights, and investigative responsive research reports. We are here to track everything as it happens. As we were the first to gather and report on Black and Latinx women entrepreneurs and innovators through Project Diane, we will continue to be at the forefront of this data to better inform the ecosystem at the speed at which it operates. So today, we are so excited to share the most recent update to Project Diane. This update includes Q4 2020 data and Q1 2021 data. If you're interested in learning more about Project Diane or downloading our reports, please go to projectdiane.com. Danielle, you work diligently with the entire research team to pull together insights as the landscape for Black and Latinx women founders is ever evolving. At Digital Undivided, we have our fingers on the pulse of these real-time shifts in innovation based on your team's hard work and a couple of my good questions to help guide the research that we really want to deeply understand. Danielle, welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. It's very exciting to have this conversation. As you noted, this report typically has come out every 2 years. We had our 2016 report, 2018 report, and then our 2020 report. And again, as you noted, so many people had questions about what does the full year 2020 data look like for Black and Latinx women founders? What's the outlook for them going into 2021? So we felt like, given the anomalous year that we had, given all that transpired last year, all the challenges that people had in general, and that of course business owners had, we wanted to do this updated report. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into the stats and getting your take on some of the perspective around why we're seeing some of the trends that we're seeing in the ecosystem.
So let's dive right in. Our 2020 Project Diane research report found that while more women founders were raising funding for their companies, Black and Latinx women founders still received less than 1% of venture capital funding across the board. Where are we now with the Project Diane database? And has there been any growth since our last report?
Yeah, so first, just to give some updates about our database, I'm really happy to say that as of now, we have more than 800 companies founded by Black and Latinx women founders. As of our last report at the end of 2020, we had just under 700. And so, now we've been able to add over 100 companies over the last 6 months. And just to say a bit about criteria for anyone who's curious or interested, we focus in this report on US-based, for-profit, tech-enabled companies that have at least one Black woman or Latinx woman founder.
Let's discuss funding for these founders, and then I'll speak on why I think there's a growing trend. Danielle, can you share a little bit about what the data says about funding right now for Black and Latinx women and how that has evolved even since our 2020 report?
Sure. So first, I'll say one of the major findings from our look into the database, over this past year is that, founders are still in business, right? So a big trend last year, a big question that a lot of people had about businesses were, are they going out of business? And what we're seeing for the founders in our database is that, they are still active, they're still around, and so we hope that that continues. A trend that we're seeing in terms of funding for these founders is that there was basically a burst of funding at the end of 2020. So in Q4 2020 and in Q1 2021, we saw record fundraising for some of the businesses in our database. And this trend is aligned with, trends across the industry. So, 2020 was a year, right, where a lot of people had, questions about, again, our business is going to survive, are investors going to continue to invest in businesses? And though things were slowed down for sure at the beginning of the year and the beginning of the pandemic, things really picked up towards the end of the year. So in Q4 2020, we saw Black and Latinx women-founded companies receiving over $400 million in funding, which took the total for the year over $700 million. And then coming into Q1 2021, we saw almost $1 billion in funding coming to Black and Latinx women founders. And so quite a bit of that was attributed to some unicorns that we'll talk about a little bit later. But we were glad to sort of see that funding, right, coming to businesses founded by Black and Latinx women. And the total funding that we saw for Black and Latinx women founders at the end of 2020 was almost up to the $4 billion mark. So in our last report, we said that we were up to $3.1 billion about 8 months into 2020. And at the end of the year, it was almost $4 billion. So, and then coming into Q1 2021, we are now almost approaching $5 billion. Not quite there, but we are over the $4 billion mark. So we've seen a big jump in funding just in the last 6 months. And what I should also say, though, about this is even as we've seen, this big funding burst, this jump in funding at the end of the year and coming into Q1 2021, the overall share of VC funding that goes to Black and Latinx women-founded companies has actually declined relative to the share in 2018 and 2019. So in our last report, we noted that Black and Latinx women-founded companies were receiving 0.67% of total VC funding. And now we've seen that share dip down to less than 0.5%. So now we're at about 0.43%. And so some of that is attributed to the fact that there was actually record investment across the venture capital industry last year. So again, even as folks thought that 2020 might be a year where we saw, big slowdown and limited funding, it actually was a record year with funding upwards of $160 billion. And so we saw the share of that funding coming to Black and Latinx women founders declining a bit.
So it sounds like these founders are persevering. And our database is growing and the funding is increasing, but still too slow. We are still struggling to move the needle in increasing our overall funding past the 1% of share of VC funding allocated to the businesses of Black and Latinx women. It's a problem for me, it's a problem for us at Digital Undivided, and a problem that still speaks to the need for partnership and support around our mission to create a world where all women own their work. Even with the social and political climate, the increased awareness of supporting people of color, we're lagging. Regardless, we're still getting just less than 1% of that VC funding being distributed to us. I don't know what to say other than as long as I've been in this industry, the stats have been this bad. So Danielle, please tell our audience what you have learned from being able to gather this data as well.
Sure. So as you mentioned, things are still moving, too slowly for Black and Latinx women founders in terms of funding. But I do want to mention some, of the success stories from the past 6 months. So just to say a bit about some unicorn companies that we saw have, mega rounds of funding. There's Savage X Fenty, which had, $115 million Series B round in February. Then we had BlockFi, which had a $350 million Series D round, and also City Block Health, which in the last 6 months has raised over $350 million. So I did want to take a moment to just highlight these companies and they think about City Block Health in particular. A big trend that we saw last year is that a lot of funding went to companies that are health oriented, right, or health focused, which is so important during this ongoing pandemic.
It's definitely a positive sign to see that deal sizes are increasing for this community of founders. And we have found quite a few unicorn companies being led by Black and Latinx women. That's something I've been waiting a long time to see. I talk often about redefining what the face of a unicorn founder should look like. Historically, it's been the face of white men, and slowly but surely, women are inching their way into this category of wealth creation and innovation, being these billion-dollar business unicorn founders. But women of color are getting in at a much slower pace. And in the grand scheme of unicorn companies, less than a handful right now are led by Black and Latinx women. That's a problem. That's a problem that we're here to solve. And I really want to talk more specifically about the $1 million club. Here at Digital Undivided, we closely track the small and growing group of Black and Latinx founders who have reached the milestone of securing more than $1 million in VC funding. What do those numbers look like after Q1 of 2021?
Yes, Lauren. So as you mentioned, we do track women, Black and Latinx women founders who have raised more than $1 million in venture capital. And we refer to this group as the $1 Million Club, right? This is one of our key metrics that we're tracking with our Project Diane research. And so I'm happy to report that the number of women in the $1 Million Club has gone up. There have been some new additions to this group at the end of 2020 and coming into 2021. So just for reference, for anyone who's new to the research, in our 2018 report, we reported that there were 79 Black and Latinx women founders who had raised over $1 million. And now that number is over 200. We're up to 226 Black and Latinx women founded companies that have raised more than $1 million in venture capital. And 27 of those were added just, again, in this sort of Q4 2020 going into the Q1 2021 period. And three that I just want to mention in particular who are profiled in this Project Diane 2021 update are Jessica Etting of Flourish Savings, Farrah Allen of The Labs, and Yalitza Jean Charles of Healthy Roots Dolls. And these founders and these companies represent a range of industries, and just as all of the founders in our Project Diane database do. So it's really exciting to see that there are these gains, to see that there are women who are continuing to raise large rounds, that we are starting to see more unicorns. And as we've already spoken to earlier, there's still lots of work to be done. Most founders don't raise money. And when founders do raise money, when Black and Latinx women founders do raise money, they're raising well below the median amount for seed rounds and rounds at every stage for founders. And so we want to continue tracking this data. We want to continue to just, get as much information as we can and present and give out as much information as we can about the experiences of these founders, not just with funding, but in terms of starting their businesses, every stage of the process. And this research is really exciting to me for years, even before joining Digital Undivided. When I was working at university, I'd always been interested in economic development, economic opportunities for Black women, for underrepresented founders, for underrepresented entrepreneurs. And this work has just been really, really interesting, really exciting. And I'm, again, so happy to see these gains, but we have a long way to go. So Lauren, I would love to hear some of your thoughts around what you're seeing, in the ecosystem. What more can we do? What more needs to be done to continue to support these founders and to see some of the parity that we want to see for these innovators?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question. And that's one I've been asking myself for, I think, about 16 or 17 years. We have always been on the cusp, if you will, of having a monumental moment for Black and Latinx women of color founders. And then something always happens that continues to pull us back. And while now we are seeing greater success than we've ever seen before, and thankfully, you and your team are doing such an incredible job to make sure we're capturing every single data point and to try to really tie in cause and correlation to the trends that we're seeing. I'm even more curious, I think, about what our solution could be, or what the solution should be to constantly being outpaced by the non-minority, right? I think that the progress that we have made is very important, and I do want to always celebrate that, but we have to also put that in the context of not just our own people, but we have to put that in the context of opportunity that is available for everyone. And when you're forced to do that, you're also forced to look at the disparity and the discrepancy between, the non-minorities and the minorities and people of color, and then the double minority being women of color. And so I'm curious to also understand some things that we actually don't track here, which are, why is it that the non-minorities are getting these wild, crazy valuations and abilities to go public, in the middle of a global pandemic? And while we know that there are a variety of industries, that have done incredibly well because of the pandemic specifically, we also know that there are industries that continue to be hand-tied in many ways by the pandemic, coupled with the racial reckoning. So I want to, for all of you who are listening and joining us today in the audience, I want to celebrate all of you and all of your strides towards innovation and entrepreneurship. I also want to celebrate our resiliency, that in still knowing how much and how far we are outpaced, that it doesn't allow us to slow down our fervor, our excitement, and our commitment, our dedication, our drive to succeed. I think that is what makes people of color, women of color, so incredible, is that we can still show up as our best, doing our best and greatest work, even when we know that maybe it's not seen at the same value or the same magnitude as it is in the eyes of society, comparatively to the non-minorities. And so I think this is that moment in time where we must pause and we must stop and say, this is great, let's keep doing it. I want to encourage all of you to keep growing towards that $1 million, billion-dollar unicorn mark. But let's also acknowledge that this is not acceptable and that there is more work to be done. And please know that we at Digital Undivided are going to be doing that work. We are going to be sounding that alarm. We are going to be making those calls to action. And while I've been in this industry as an entrepreneur 3 times over of my own incredibly successful companies, making investments into a wide portfolio of other startups in which I am personally invested as an angel investor, or where I have invested previously with my own venture capital firm, I have a few billion-dollar unicorns in my portfolio too, and I want to make sure that we see more of this. And so that is also why our research is going to be more frequent this year in 2021 at a minimum of once per quarter, so 4 times per year. And again, taking deep dives into what we've discussed today, but also taking even deeper dives into some very specific trends that we see that Danielle and I are deeply curious about. But Danielle, you also spent nearly 15 years in academia, right? At the highest level, doing data research and evaluation over at the CUNY School, the Macaulay School of Honors. And I would just love for you to also share maybe how examining what's happening in the startup landscape might draw some comparisons or contrast against some trends that you were already maybe seeing around innovation with the lens of academia before joining us to give this lens of innovation meets entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so there are a few key trends or a few key findings, or just facts, I should say, about women of color founders that have been true for some time. So for years now, Black women and Latinas have been among the fastest growing groups of entrepreneurs. And so this is one reason why I'm so interested in the work of Digital Undivided, and why I know it's so important, because again, this is a group of founders who are very motivated, who are very innovative, who have been starting businesses for as long as they've had an opportunity to start businesses. And there are so many reasons why that's happening. So we have, just the excitement around owning one's own work, right? We have the excitement and interest around being one's own boss, pursuing, your dreams. And then there are also those community factors that are so important, right? So many women of color are breadwinners for their families, or maybe they're working multiple jobs. They're caretakers for people in their families. And so there's an imperative for them to earn, right? And to try to support their families and their communities in as many ways as possible. And so, this is something that I'm just continuing to see in looking at this, particular group of founders that we are including in our Project Diane research. There's so much innovation across, again, a range of industries. We're seeing founders all over the country. So even though we've seen the bulk of our founders on the coast in California and New York, nearly every state is represented in our database. And so we want to, again, just continue to encourage founders to pursue their dreams, right? To start their businesses, to seek out supports, to work with organizations like Digital Undivided that are committed to supporting these founders, because again, we know that Black and Latinx women founders are excited about starting their businesses. They are serious about their businesses, and so we're seeing that trend across all sorts of industries, again, all sorts of locations, and they're just really these big drivers for these communities in particular.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Women of color, Black and Latinx women never give up. And when we do, we aren't really giving up. It's normally a pivot, and that persistence will come back to visit you again. It gives me hope seeing the database grow and seeing the $1 Million Club grow as well. But the progress is still too slow, far too slow. And we have work to do that I want to promise all of you we are committed to doing every single day at Digital Undivided. Myself, Danielle, our programs team, community team, we strive every day at Digital Undivided to provide the critical support and advocacy to Black and Latinx women founders who find innovative ways to support their families and communities through entrepreneurship. We see you, we support you. And whether you're an ally, an investor, a corporate leader, or a supporting organization or policymaker, we hope you take this time to read the Project Diane 2021 update and insights. Take a look at the data and think about what you can do to advance equity in entrepreneurship. Think about the conversations that we can have together towards solutions. I thank you for joining us at another edition of Undivided We Rise. And again, I encourage you to please visit projectdiane.com to learn more about our work, our research, and to understand and see these findings and to explore them for yourself in real time. The website is incredible, it's dynamic, and it has a map. I encourage you to explore it. Tell us if we've missed anything. Let us know where you're going next. Make sure that we can continue tracking you and your business. And again, thank you again so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Having created that study, putting it out there, forced everyone to have sort of a mirror to look into and the reality of the disparities of venture funding.
I think every day as women of color, we tell our own story in our own way of how the systemic injustice impacts us, how stereotypes hold us back. And this research report is just, it is the plain cold, analytical, black and white truth of what holds women of color back.
Thank you so much for having me. So everybody is like, you know, representing and trying to uplift Black and brown voices right now. And I stand organizations and people who are doing it before it was cool. So, you know, shout out to y'all. You know my story. I started making lipstick in my kitchen. Did I know how to make lipstick in my kitchen? No, of course I didn't know. Who knows how to make lipstick in their kitchen? Nobody. Like, not a single soul. Since day one, our goal has been to challenge the beauty standard. That has since evolved to, like, we want to change the way people think about beauty, because I think it's all mindset. You have to know when to have the right discernment to say, you know what, I'm going to listen to you, or no, I'm going to listen to my gut. And I think that just also takes time and believing in your why. And so for us at the Lip Bar, I knew in my gut that there was something wrong with the industry. And so that's what gave me my momentum to keep going. Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, it's your responsibility to just keep going. Like, that's your job. Like, your job is just to keep going and to keep optimizing and keep figuring stuff out. We have $1.2 trillion in buying power, but unfortunately, a lot of that buying power, you know, goes outside of our communities to people who don't reinvest in our communities. I want us to pledge our allegiance to Black people. And so like that is what the Black Pact is. It is a pledge of Black allegiance, and the goal is to get as many people to commit to shopping Black as possible. And listen, it's not convenient because you can't be last minute with it. So it's just about changing our shopping habits so that we can grow really large Black owned businesses, so that we can start reinvesting in our communities, because Black people hire Black people hire brown people, and vice versa. So I'm like, we can change this. Even though it's not completely our problem, and I'm not saying that racism is something that only Black people need to fix, but there are certain aspects of it that we can fix. You got to start with the actual root of the problem. And so typically I do this thing, I have this exercise called the 5 whys. So if anything is going wrong, I'm like, well, why did it happen? And if I keep asking myself why, then ultimately I get to the true source. Like, men run the beauty industry, they run the fashion industry, even though typically they're not the consumers. So I think more than anything, I've just learned to, like, go where you are, celebrate it, not tolerate it.
So Be Captivating LLC asks, after COVID-19, would you be open to opening more storefronts?
I think COVID has changed the way we shop forever.
Forever.
And online is it's not so bad. So check out thelipbar.com. We're on social at the Lip Bar. Literally on every single piece of social, it's just at the Lip Bar. And if you're interested in me, I'm Melissa R. Butler on social, and that's also my website.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for your time. We really appreciate it. And as you know, I'm always wishing you the best, and I can't wait to see where you go next and what you do next.
Thank you. I had fun on this interview. Send it to me. I'm gonna post this thing.
We will, I promise. All right. Have a good night, Melissa.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.